All right, 3.3 example 4b. This one, we're going to start at the beginning of our flowchart to figure out how to solve this. So looking at it, it cannot be written in an x squared equals k format because we have an x squared and an x. So we're going to go down here. Next, we need to factor out our GCF. So if we look at our numbers that we have a 2, 13, and 6. Now, the only numbers I can divide 2 by are 1 and 2. 13 cannot be divided by 2. So that means our GCF here is going to be 1. And we can just move on to our next part. The next part's asking, are the first and the last terms perfect squares? In this one, 2x squared is not a perfect square because 2 is not a square number. 1 is, and then 4 is. Those are the smallest perfect squares we have, so we cannot use that perfect square. So we're going to follow the no arrow. And then we need to check, is factoring by splitting possible? So we are going to look for our a, b, and c value. So a equals 2, b equals 13, and c equals 6. With that, we are going to figure out what AC equals. You find that by multiplying A times C. 2 times 6 is 12. Then our B value equals 13. So we are going to split that B value into two numbers that are add to B and multiply to equal A times C. So looking at these, I know some factors of 12 are going to be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So going through this, I want to look which ones add up to be 13. And that's going to end up being 1 and 12. 2 and 6 add to 8, 3 and 4 add to 7. Once we know that, we're going to write our equation as 4 terms and then factor out the greatest common factor from the first 2 terms, then the last 2 terms. So we're splitting this 13x into a 1x and a 12x. The rest of the equation stays the same. So we have a 2x squared and then a plus 6 equals 0. Now we're going to factor out the GCF from the first part and the second part. Looking here, the 2 and the 1, the greatest common factor between 2 and 1 is 1. Both terms have an x, so we can factor out an x there. So thinking through this, what would go inside those parentheses? If we have 2x squared divided by a 1x, we would be left with 2x. Then if we have a 1x divided by a 1x, that would be equal to 1. You have to leave that 1 there. You cannot put a 0 or leave it blank. That 1 will change your answer if you don't have it. Now we're going to factor out the GCF from the last 2 terms. We have a 12x and a 6. So between 12 and 6, the largest number we can factor out of there is 6. Only one of them has an x, so we are not going to factor an x with this. If we take 12x divided by 6, that would leave us with a 2x that need to go in the parentheses. And 6 divided by 6 is 1. When you are factoring by splitting, the part inside of the parentheses should be the same. Once you have that, we've written it as 4 terms and we factored out the GCFs. We're going to now factor out the common factor. That is the 2x plus 1. So that's our common factor, 2x plus 1. The remaining parts go in a set of parentheses then together. So our x, 1x, and our 6 go together in our second parentheses. That is then equal to 0. So factoring by splitting was possible. So we factored. Now are we solving? Which is yes. If we're not solving, we are done. But because we are, we need to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So again, factors are the parts inside the parentheses. So our factor is going to be at 2x plus 1 equals 0, and then x plus 6 equals 0. Then we'll solve each set of parentheses, or each factor, by using inverse operations. You want to make sure you use inverse operations. Sometimes we get wrong answers because we don't. So make sure you are double checking your work when you solve these. You should get for your answers -1/2 and -6.